Hello all, welcome to the tutorial session on object-oriented concept. In this video, we'll learn about classes and objects, constructors, this keyword and garbage collection, and also some of the types of variables in Java. Yes, the module 3 covers classes, inheritance and exceptional handling. Yeah, the classes chapter consists of the fundamentals of classes, declaring objects, constructors, this keyword, and garbage collection. The inheritance chapter consists of the basics of inheritance, using super keyword, creating multi-level hierarchy, and method overriding. And at the last, exceptional handling chapter consists of various techniques involved in handling exceptions in Java. Yes. Let us begin with the concept class. Class is a fundamental concept of an object-oriented programming. Yeah, let us look into the definition of class. A class is a template or blueprint from which an object is created. Okay. It is a logical entity that helps in defining the behavior and properties of an object. Yes. When I say it's a template or a blueprint, I can also say it as a skeletal structure of an object. Let me consider an example of a class car here. The car will have some features like car will have a color, it can have a model, it will have a price, so many features. And it can also have some of the methods, some of the functionalities like speed up method and gear change. So overall I can say it as it's just a template or a blueprint, and it is not a physical entity, it's just a logical entity. Now why this class is used? The class is just a template from which an object is created here. So using this template or blueprint, we create an object. For example, in a real world, the physical car, or I can say it as Tata Nexon or Maruti Swift or Ritz. So all these are the objects, so which is available in a real world. Okay. Yes. So if I take another example, so class student will have a common features from one properties, like student will have the name, USN number, the phone number, age, marks, and also the student class can have some of the methods, like some methods to calculate the aggregate of the student. Okay, so that's I can have some data members and methods inside the class. Yes, let's see how can we declare the class. The class can be declared using a keyword class and then the class name. So within that we can have some of the variables. So these variables inside the class but outside the method is called as instance variables. And then I can have some methods. Even I can have a main function. Even a main function is a main is also a method that can be defined inside the class. Here is an example. Class dog. Here dog is a class name and the string, breed, age and color. So all these three variables are instance variables. And then I can have some methods within the class dog, that is barking, hungry and sleeping are all are the methods inside the class dog. So this is how we can declare the class. Yes. Now we have already learnt about the class, where we know that class is just a template, it's just a blueprint from which an object is created. Or else I can say that a class is just a skeleton structure of an object. So now the question is, what is an object? An object is a real world entity. The something that appears in a real world, that is called as an object. An object is an instance of a class. Okay, let me take a simple example. Here we have class car and these are the variables, that is model, color and brand. So this is just a logical representation. And here as you can see, what is an object? An object is a physical representation. So this Ertiga or Mahindra XUV 500 or Maruti Swift, so all these are the objects that appears in a real world. So what happens is, whenever in the programming world, whenever you create an object, a memory will be allocated to that. As you can see, these are the some of the features. A car will have a model, color and brand. So each object which you create will have, the compiler will allocate memory for that. Okay. Yes. Now coming to the syntax of object creation. So this is a syntax. Class name object is equal to new the class name. So this is a constructor. We'll learn about the constructor in the coming slides. So what this new does is, new allocates memory dynamically to this object. Okay, so this new operator used in allocating memory to this object. Okay, so yeah, coming to the class car, so we have created two objects here, that is Ertiga and Swift. As I've already told you, whenever you create an object, the compiler will allocate memory to each of this object. Yes, now we'll look into the declaration part of an object. Yes, here is the general form of creating an object. Declaring an object. Class name object is equal to new class name. So this is, we call a constructor. Okay, we'll be looking regarding the constructor. We'll look into the coming slide. Yeah, here is an example of a class box. Here width, height and depth are all the instance variable of the class box. Okay, now what happens when I create this variable box, my box? Here this my box, that this does not define an object. It simply creates a variable that refer to an object. This is just creates a variable of type class, that's it. The memory will not be allocated initially. If I declare this a variable, memory will be allocated with null value. Okay, so now the question is, when the memory will be allocated to this reference variable, that is whenever I use this new operator. Okay, this new operator dynamically allocates memory to this object. Now you might ask what memory it will allocate. So the memory of a particular class, what is that? Width, height and depth here. So that memory will be allocated dynamically by the new operator. Okay, yeah, that's it about declaring objects of a class. We'll understand this concept of class and object with a simple example. Okay, now let me create a simple class called as a student class. Class student will have a two instance variable, that is student ID and student name. Now I will create one more class. The class name is test student, where even the main function resides inside the test student class. Okay, now if you want to execute this, you need to save this file as teststudent.java. Okay, so wherever the main function resides, the class name of that should be the file name with the extension .java. Okay, and yes, here this is S1 is an object. This is how you create an object of a class. As you can see, student S1 is equal to new operator student. Now whenever an object is created, the compiler will allocate memory, that is ID and name memory will be allocated to S1. So how can I now the question is, how can I access it? How the variables, values can be initialized to these data members of an object using s1.id and s1.name. So this is how I initialize values to the data members of an object. And finally I can print the values of the student S1, student ID and the name can be displayed using system.out.println. Yes, the output over here is 421 Rajat. So that's it about this simple program. Demonstrates the working of a class and object. Okay. The next concept is about assigning object to a reference variable. Let's say, look at here, we have a box. Box is a class name. We are just creating an object here. B1 is an object been created over here. Whenever an object is created, compiler will allocate memory to that. As you have already seen in the previous slide, for the box had three instance variable, that is width, height and depth. Okay, now what in the second line, what you are doing over here is, we are assigning the object to a reference variable. Here box B2, here B2 is just a reference variable. Okay, initially when you declare box B2 is just a reference variable, but now here what you are doing is, we are assigning the value of an object to a reference variable. Now what happens when you assign a value to an reference variable? Both, as you can see here, both B1 and B2 will refer to the same object. Any changes made to the object will affect B1 and B2. Okay, but even though B1 and B2 will be referring to the same object, both B1 and B2 are not linked in any way, which means if I make this B1 is equal to null, but still B2 will point towards this original object only. I repeat once again, even if I remove this link here, even if I make B1 is equal to null, even it will not affect B2. B2 will still point towards this object. Okay, so that is about assigning an object to a reference variable. Hope the concept is clear. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, we'll understand much more about this assigning object to a reference variable with a simple example. Let me take a pen over here. As you can see over here, so this is about class data. In the class data, we have declared a two instance variable, that is data1 and data2. Here we have declared one more class that is called as Java app, and where the main function resides. And as you can see here, so this is d1. Here d1 is an object of a class data. Object is created. Whenever an object is created, the compiler will allocate memory for that. That is d1, data1 and data2 will be a part of d1. Okay, yes. Now as you can see here, the value 20 will be initialized to the data1 of object d1. And now look at here. Now what you are doing here is, in this third line, we'll be assigning the value of an object to a reference variable. Here d2 is a reference variable. D2 is not an object. Here we are just assigning the value of d1 to d2. We are assigning the value of d1 to d2. Here d1 and d2 will be pointing towards the same object. Now using d2, we'll be initializing the data member data2, that is 40. 40 will be value will be initialized to data2. As I already told, d1 now d2 will be pointing towards the same object. Look at here. Now again what I am going to do here is, value of d2 will be stored to the one more reference variable called as d3. Now d1, d2 and d3 will be pointing towards the same object. So when I print the value of d3 dot data1 and d3 dot data2, the value which I get is nothing but 20 and 40 itself. Okay, even though if I am going to use d3 to print the value of data1 data2, I will get the same value, that is 20 and 40. Okay, now holistically when I say here, d1, d2 and d3 are pointing towards 20 and 40 itself, which means the value of data1 and data2 is 20 and 40. Methods in Java. In Java, we can declare the variables and we can define the methods inside the class. So here is a general form to define a method inside the class. That is access specifiers. We need to specify the return type, method name and the parameter list. So here comes the method body. So now we'll write a simple program to add two numbers using a method. Okay, yes, here is the class method. Okay, meth, and we have defined a method here inside the class meth. That is, the method name is add, and int a and b are the local variables. Okay, and even sum is a local variable. Okay, the visibility of this a, b and sum will be within the block itself. So int sum is equal to a plus b and return sum. So since here sum is of type integer, even the return type is integer here, and the access specifier specified is public. Okay, so here are the formal parameters. So we need to call this method using a function call or using an object. Yes, so this is how we define a main function. So yeah, we have initialized two variables, num1 and num2. Here num1 and num2 are local variables since it is inside a main method. So that's why num and num2 is called as a local variable, and it is initialized to 25 and num2 is initialized to 15. Yes, this is how you create an object in Java. Okay, so that is class name, object name is equal to new operator and the method constructor. So this is how you create an object in Java. So now how can I call this method? So whenever an object is created, memory will be allocated to that. Now how can I call this method add? Yeah, that is using object.add. Okay, here are the two actual parameters. Num1 consists of value 25, num2 consists of value 15. So this is like a function call. It will call this particular method. Okay, and it will return the value, that is addition of 25 plus 15, that is 40. The 40 value will be written to result. Then finally I'm going to print the value of the result, that is sum is equal to, that is plus result, and the final output is sum is 40. Now let us create a simple Java program with the class name dog, which consists of instance variables and the method. The instance variable are breed, size, age and color, and the method name is getInfo, that displays the values of instance variable. Okay, after that in the main functions we'll be creating an object, okay, and we'll be initializing the values of for this data members of an object. Now let us create a simple class called as dog, and all these are the instance variable. Breed, size, age and color are the instance variable. Now let us create a method called as getInfo that displays the values of that prints the values of all these instance variables. Yes, as you can see here, public string getInfo. Okay, why string? Because it will be returning some values. Okay, yeah, breed is, it will be displaying the values of breed, size, age and color. Next we'll create a main function where we can create an object. Okay, yes, so this is how you write a main function. Yeah, this is a main function here. This is an access specifier public, which means the main function can be accessible anywhere else in any class or any method. Static, why we are using static for the main function is because we did not use any object to call this main function. Okay, so yeah, this main function can be called easily without using any object. And then void, which tells that the main function doesn't return any value. And yes, the Java supports some of the command line arguments, so this statement, this parameter is to support command line arguments. Okay, now let us create an object. So yes, this is how you create an object. Maltese is an object which has been created of a class dog. Okay, and as I told you, whenever an object is created, the compiler will allocate memory to that. Okay, so as you can see over here, here is a memory, and to access, to initialize these instance variable, you'll be using a dot operator. Okay, as you can see, I've initialized this value to all the instance variable. How can I initialize? Using object name dot variable. Okay, yes, as you can see here, object Maltese dot breed. This is how I initialize to all these instance variables. Maltese dot size, Maltese dot age is equal to 2, and Maltese dot color is equal to white. And finally I'll be just calling this getInfo method. Even this getInfo, I have to call this getInfo, I have to use the dot operator, that is Maltese dot getInfo. As you can see here, I'll be just calling this method here. So what this method does is it will be returning some value, and in the main function using system.out.println, I'll be displaying the value of all the values of the object. Okay, yes, the output is the breed is Maltese, size is small, age is 2 and color is. Yes, now we'll learn about the types of variables in Java. There are 3 types of variables in Java, that is local variable, instance variable and class or static variable. Yes, what is local variable? Local variables are declared within the method, constructors or a block of code. The visibility of this local variable is only within the block of code or a method. Yes, now what is an instance variable? The instance variable are declared inside the class but outside a method, constructor or a block of code. Any variable which is declared inside the class but outside a method is called as instance variable. Yes, by default this instance variable value is 0. Yes, now what is class variable? Class or static variable? The class or static variable has only one copy that is shared by all the different objects of a class, which means this static variable, for this static variable, memory is allocated only once, and these variables is shared by all the objects of a class regardless of how many object has been created. All the objects share this single static variables. Okay, local variables. So a variable defined within a block of code or method or a constructor is called as a local variable. Yes, as I already told, the visibility of this local variable is only within the block of code. Yes, we'll understand this local variable with a simple example. Let me create a class student and let me create a method. Here is a method student age that returns nothing. That's the reason it is void here. And yes, here is int age. Here, this is called as a local variable. Any variable which is declared inside a method or inside a constructor or block of code is called as a local variable. As you can see, the visibility of this age is only within the method, only within this method student age. If I try to access the age variable, if I try to access outside this method, the compiler will throw an error. Okay, let's see what it does. Int age is equal to 0, and then I'm calculating age. Yes, age value is initialized to 5, and later I'm going to display it. Now let me create a main function. Yes, this is how the main function is. Yes, to call this student age, I need an object. So I create an object. Obj is an object, and then using the dot operator, I call this student age. And yes, the output is nothing but student age is 5. So that's it about the local variable. Next, we look into the instance variable. Yes. So here is the instance variable. Instance variable are declared inside a class but outside any method, constructor or a block. Okay. And yes, the initialization is not mandatory, but the default value is 0 for the instance variable. Yes, the instance variable can be accessed directly inside the non-static method. I repeat once again, the instance variable can be accessed easily by a normal method. But however, if I want to access this instance variable within the main method or a static method, then I need to make use of object. And I will explain this instance variable with a simple example. Yes, we have created a class called as variable. Yes, this is called as instance variable. I repeat once again, the instance variable are declared inside the class but outside any method or a constructor. Okay, so this is called as an instance variable where we initialize with the value 100. And yes, now the question is, how can I access this instance variable inside the static method? Why I call this main method as static? Because there is a static keyword even for the main. And main is a method and that method has a static keyword. So that's the reason I say this main is a static method. Okay, so how can I access this instance variable in main method? I need to create an object. As you can see here, however, within the static methods, they should be called using object. So this instance variable can be accessed by a static method using an object. As you can see here, I used object to display the value of my variable. Object dot my variable. Okay. Yes. Now what is the output of this simple code? Value of instance variable is 100. However, the value of this instance variable I can easily access by a non-static method. I need not use any object to call this instance variable by a non-static method. Okay, yes, that's it about this instance variable. Hello all, let us understand about the variables in Java with the demonstration. To begin with, let me create an instance variable. I will initialize this instance variable with the value 99. Now I will create a method. The name of the method is display. Okay, then in the main method, in the display method, I'll be just displaying the value of this instance variable. As you can see here, I'll be just displaying the value of the instance variable in the display method. Okay, so now to execute this code, I need to create an object. Now to create an object, I need to go to the main function. Yes, variables, then the object name is equal to new variables. Yes, then the constructor. So then how can I call this display method? Using object dot display. Yes, yes, there is no error. I can directly execute. Yes, let's see what is the output. Yes, We got the output, that is displaying instance variable inside method, that is the value is 99. Yes, I can access this instance variable inside a method. Now we'll see how can we access the instance variable inside a static method. As you can see, this main method is a static method. Let me check whether I can access this instance variable inside a static method. I'll be just copying the print statement. Yes, as you can see, when I copied that the same statement inside a main method is generating an error, as you can see here, because this instance variable cannot be accessed directly inside a static method. Let's see what error. As you can see here, non-static variable cannot be referenced from a static context, which means this instance variable cannot be accessed directly inside a static method. Now suppose the question is, how can I access instance variable in a static method? That is using an object. Okay, so I need to make use of an object, that is obj dot instance. Now as you can see here, there is no such error. Now let me execute this statement. Now displaying instance variable inside main method. Let me change the statement and let me execute this. Yes, I got the output, displaying instance variable inside main method, and the value is 99. Yes, so yes, this is how I can access instance variable inside a non-static method. I can access directly, but if I want to access this instance variable inside a static method, then I need to make use of an object. Okay, so yeah, in the theoretical sessions we learned that the default value of this instance variable is 0. Let me check. I will just remove the initialization part. Now let me save the program and let me execute it. Okay, yes, as you can see here, the displaying instance variable inside a method, the value is 0 here. It is printing the value 0 here. Yes, that's it about the instance variable. Yes, now let us understand about the local variable. Okay, now first I'll be declaring a local variable inside a method display. So I will initialize the value 300 to the local variable. Now I'm going to display the value of local using the statement system dot out dot println. Yes, I'm not getting error, and let me execute this simple program. Yet yes, it is executing. Yes, it has been executed successfully. The value 300 has been displayed. Now this local variable, the visibility of this local variable will be within this method itself, within this display method. If I try to access local variable outside the method, it is going to generate an error. Yes, let me check. I'll copy this display statement, just copy and paste it in the main method. Yes, when I try to do so, yes, as you can see, the ID is generating an error. Okay, so it cannot recognize the local because the visibility of this local variable is only within the display method. Okay, yes, that's it about the local variable. Static or class variable. Static or class variables are declared with the keyword static. It is declared inside a class but outside a method, constructor or block. Memory for static variables are allotted only once. Yes. The static variables is not a part of any object. All the objects will share this static variable. So that's the reason the memory for static variables is allotted only once. There would be only one copy of each class variable per class, regardless of how many objects are created from it. Yes, there will be only one copy of this static variable per class. So rest all the objects share this particular static variable. Okay, let us understand with a simple example. Let us see how can we access these static variables. We have declared a class demo. So let me take a pen. Yes, yes, we have declared a class demo here. Yes, the variable is stat demo, and I have declared one more class called as start, and inside that I have declared one more static variable called as stat. Okay, now to access, I have got method called as display. To access the stat demo of other class, I have to make use of this class name dot stat demo, as I have done over here. class name dot static variable. And to access the static variable of its own class, then I can directly access just using stat. Okay. Yes. Then the main function will be creating an object. So yes, using dot operator, I'll be calling the method. Okay. Yes, the output is 400 and 500. Now let's understand about the static variable with one more example. Let me go to NetBeans. Yes, as you can see here, so here I have not used any static variable, so this program is without static variable. Okay, so it consists of a class students, and it consists of this instance variable, that is the USN name and college, and the college variable is initialized with value Canara Engineering College, Mangalore. Okay, and this void show, it is used to display it is used to print the value. Okay. Yes, coming to the main method, I have got object. The object name is Disha. In real world, Disha is a student. Okay. So yes, and I've got one more object, Melvin. Yes, even Melvin is a student belonging to same Canara Engineering College. Now the question arises, both Disha and Melvin belongs to Canara Engineering College. But why do I require separate memory has to be allocated to this object? Okay, we all know that college has been initialized to Canara Engineering College, and Disha and Men will belong to Canara Engineering College. Then why we have to make a separate memories allocated to Disha and Melvin? So again, this is a wastage of memory. As you can see over here, this and this over here is a wastage of memory. So to avoid this, we can make use of the static variables. Okay, to avoid this, we can make use of static variables. We can simply make this college as a static. Now if I make this college as a static, the static variables is not a part of any object. Okay, it would not be a part of any object. So rest all the object will share the static variables. Okay, and memory allocated to this static variables is only once. Again and again, the memory is not allocated to each object. Okay, that's clear. So I can easily remove this. Now again, Melvin.college, I can remove this as well. Okay, so now because the static variables memory is allocated only once. Now I'll try to execute the code. As you can see, I will be just object.usn, object.name. This is the initialization. Melvin.usn and Melvin.name is the initialization. Now let me execute the code. It is executing. Yes, as you can see here, I'm getting the output. Okay, that is one of the use of static variable. Okay, yes, that's it. Yes, now let us learn about constructor. Constructor is one of the key feature of object-oriented programming. Yes, here are some of the features of constructor. The first point, constructor is used to initialize the data members of an object. So the main goal of the constructor is to initialize the data members of an object. Second point, constructor name should be same as the class name. Third, constructor doesn't have any return type. Like usually normal method will return some value, but constructor is a special type of method that doesn't return any value. Fourth, constructor is called automatically when an object is created. Okay, so we need not explicitly call this constructor. The Java virtual machine or the compiler automatically calls the constructor by itself when an object is created. Yes, there are three types of constructor. The first one is no argument constructor, second one is parameterized constructor, and default constructor. Now let us understand about no argument constructor. As the name itself says, no argument constructor are the constructor that doesn't have any parameters. Yes, now let us understand this no argument constructor with a simple example. Now just I have created a class called as bike. Okay, now yes, this is called as constructor. Okay, as the features says, constructor name should be same as the class name, and yes, constructor doesn't have any return type, and yes, when the constructor is called, Constructor is called automatically when an object is created. As you can see here, B is an object of class bike. Okay, whenever an object is created, automatically constructor is called. Okay, now yes, so what is the output? As soon as when you create an object, the constructor is called, and it will display the statement that is bike is created. Yes, now what is the output? Yes, the output is bike is created. Yes, now let us see one more example on constructor. Yes, now I just created a class with the name construct, and this is called as instance variable. Okay, so yes, here is the constructor. As I already told you, the constructor name should be same as the class name, and the constructor doesn't have any return type. As you can see, there is no return type mentioned over here. The constructor doesn't have any return type, and when the constructor is called, the constructor is called automatically when an object is created. And one more point is, the main goal of constructor is to initialize the data members of an object. As you can see here, I'm initializing the data members of an object. Okay, so whenever an object is created, the constructor is called. Now the instance variable I will be initialized with 5, and I'll be displaying a message constructor is called. Now, well, inside the main function, I'll be just printing the value of I. So the value of I is 5. Yes, the output is constructor is called and value of I is equal to 5. Yes, next we'll learn about parameterized constructor. A constructor that has parameters is known as parameterized constructor. Okay, the parameterized constructor is used to provide different values to different objects. Well, we'll understand about this parameterized constructor with a simple example. Now let me create a class. Okay, and yes, so this languages is an instance variable, and let me create a constructor now. Yes, as you can see here, the constructor name is same as class name, and the constructor doesn't have any return type. And well, the constructor is used to initialize the data members of an object. Now suppose if I want to initialize the object, I call constructor. Okay, and then I'll be just printing the value of languages. Okay, now how can I call this constructor? The constructor can be called automatically when I create an object. So where I have to create the object? In a main method. So I have created 3 objects here, that is object 1, object 2 and object 3, and each object is passing some values. Object 1 is passing Java, and object 2 is passing Python, and object 3 has passing the parameter C. Yes, the final output will be Java program language, Python program language, and C program language. Since there are 3 objects, so this constructor is called thrice by this object. Whenever an object is created, this constructor is called. Yes, we'll learn one more example on parameterized constructor. Yes, I've just created a class called as my class, and here is an instance variable, and here is a class, here is a constructor. As you can see, the constructor name is same as a class name, and constructor is initializing the values of data members. Okay, and yes, as you can see here, some parameter is passed, so this is called as a parameterized constructor. And yeah, so when this constructor is called, when an object is created. As you all know, object is created inside a main function, and t1 and 2 are the objects, and just passing the value 10 and 20. Okay, the t1 is passing 10 and t2 is passing the parameter 20. Okay, so yes, the output is 10 and 20. Yes, as you can see here. Yes, here is one more example of parameterized constructor. Yes, class student is a class name, and the student ID and student name here are the instance variables. Now let me create a constructor with the name student. Yeah, this is a constructor which has 2 parameters. Okay, that is I and n are the 2 parameters passed to this constructor, and here I'm initializing this I and n to this instance variable. Okay, so here instance variable are initialized. to these values of I and n. Okay, now yeah, as you can see, this constructor name is same as class name, and now in order to call this constructor, I need to create an object. So for that I need to create a main function. Yeah, before that I'll be having a method called as display, so that displays the value of this instance variable, that is id and name. Okay, yes, so here is the main function. I've just created the two object here, s1 object s1 and object s2. Okay, so new student 100 comma Aditya. So I'll be just passing these two parameters. So these two parameters I will be passing to this constructor. Here I is nothing but 100 and n is nothing but Aditya. Okay, string n is nothing but an Aditya. So these two values will be initialized to id and name, and then I'll be going to display the values of student id and student name. And then yeah, there is one more object called as s2. We're just passing the values 300 and the student name Ashlesha, and then I'm going to display it. I'll be calling a display function. Yes, the final output is 100 Aditya and 300 Ashlesha. Yeah, this program just demonstrates the parameterized constructor. So as you can see, I'll be just passing, whenever I create an object, we'll be passing the parameters. Okay, and then this constructor is used to initialize the data members, and I can just display the values. Okay, and as you can see, explicitly I have not called the constructor. As you can see here, I'm just calling the method here, s1 dot display and s2 dot display, but I'm not calling this constructor. The compiler itself calls this constructor only whenever an object is created. Whenever an object is created, the constructor calls automatically, and even this actual parameters will be copied to the formal parameters. Okay, that's it about this parameterized constructor. Yes, now we'll understand about the default constructor. So you have already learned about two constructor, that is no argument constructor and parameterized constructor. So this is third constructor, that is a default constructor. Java virtual machine calls a default constructor if there is no constructor available in the class. Okay, the default constructor is used to provide the default values to the objects like 0, null or false depending upon the data type. Okay, yes, let me explain this default constructor with a simple example. Yes, class main, int a, boolean b are the two instance variables. Yeah, and we have got a main function and just created an object. Yes, whenever I created an object, I'll be creating an object using new operator, and then as you can see here, this main with the brackets calls the default constructor. So what happens is whenever we don't create constructor explicitly, the Java virtual machine, it will call a default constructor. So what does this default constructor does is it will initialize these instance variables with the int a as 0 and boolean b as false. Okay, yes, then after that as you can see, I'm just displaying the value of a and b. Yes, the output of a is 0 and output of b is false. Yes, now if you don't explicitly define constructor, the Java virtual machine itself calls the constructor and initialize these data members of an object. Okay, yes, now let us learn and explore about this keyword in Java. Yes, this keyword is mainly used to refer the instance variable, and it is also used to differentiate between the instance and local variable. Now let us understand about this keyword with a simple program. Yes, here we have just created a class with the name this demo. Here result is equal to 99. So this result is an instance variable. Yes, we have created a method called as display. Yeah, within the method we have again declared a variable called as result. So this variable is called as local variable, whereas this variable is called as instance variable. Now suppose if I want to print the value of result. Okay, now suppose if I want to print the value of result inside the method, I can directly use the local variable itself, because inside a method this local variable shadows the instance variable. Now the question is, how can I access instance variable inside the method? Okay, So to access this instance variable inside a method, you need to make use of this keyword. Okay, so let me underline it. So you need to make use of this keyword. Okay, to access a local variable inside a method, you can directly access it, but if you want to access the instance variable, you need to make use of this dot result, which means it will access this instance variable. Okay, yes. Then I'll be creating a main function. Then we'll be creating an object of this demo class, and I'll be calling this display function. Okay, yes. Now what is the output of this simple program? The local variable is 200, the instance variable is 99. Yes. Okay, yeah. Now we'll understand the use of this keyword. Okay, so we'll consider a simple program and we'll understand the effect of this keyword. Now in this program we'll not be using this keyword. Yes, class student, here a roll number, name, fees, all these three are the instance variable. Yes, now student is a constructor here. Okay, the student, this is called as constructor. The constructor name is same as class name, and yes, constructor doesn't have any return type, and constructor is used to initialize the data members. And yes, this constructor has certain parameters. Okay, so it's also an example for a parameterized constructor. Okay, and void display, it will display the instance variables, values of an instance variable, and public static and the main function. Okay, that is public static void main. And yes, so this is where you create an object. Student s1 is equal to new student, and we'll be just passing some parameters to this parameterized constructor. Now yes, whenever object is created and constructor is called, as you can see that actual parameters are copied to the formal parameters. Now you can see this look at the difference between roll number and this roll number. You know, this is an instance variable and this is a local variable. Okay, now as you can see inside the constructor, so we are just assigning the value of roll number local variable to a same value, to the same variable. Okay, so as I already told, this local variable shadows this instance variable. Okay, so what would be the output now? Okay, yes, the output would be, output is 0, null and 0. The reason is the default value of this instance variable of this roll number is 0, and the default value of this name is null, and the default value of fee is 0. But what exactly happening in the parameterized constructor is local variable roll number value is initialized to itself. It has not been initialized to this instance variable. That's the reason when I display the values, so it will take the default value. It will print the default value of this instance variable. Now how can I solve this problem? So the problem can be solved by making this as instance variable. So how can I make this? So by using this dot roll number, this dot name, and this dot fee. So yes, as you can see here, this dot roll number, this dot name, this dot fee, when I do this, the value will get stored to an instance variable from this actual parameter to the formal parameter, from the local variable to this instance variable. Okay, and then this here I'm just printing the value of instance variable. Now I will get the correct answer, that is 111, Rajat, and 50,000. Garbage collection. Garbage collection is a process of deallocating the object when there is no reference to it. When I say when there is no reference to object, it is like an unreferenced object. For example, say suppose if you assign null values to an object, so it is an unreferenced object. So such unreferenced object, the Java virtual machine will automatically deallocate the memory allocated to it. Okay, yes. Garbage collection in Java is done automatically by Java virtual machine. But usually, whereas in C we have got free function, and in C++ we have got delete function to perform memory deallocation. But in Java, so it is done automatically by the Java virtual machine. However, programmer can request Java virtual machine for garbage collection by calling system.gc method. But the programmer cannot force the Java virtual machine to perform garbage collection. Okay, the programmer can just request the Java virtual machine by calling system.gc method. Whenever an object holds resources like file descriptors, the garbage collector cannot free these resources. So in order to free these resources, we must use finalize method. Okay, so inside this finalize method, we can specify the actions that must be performed before an object is destroyed. So before an object is destroyed, the finalize method is called. Okay, yes, let us understand about garbage collection with a simple example. As you can see here, here is the class with the name test garbage, and yes, we have got finalize method, and here we have created two objects. So this two object is assigned with null values. So I can say that S1 and S2 is now unreferenced objects. So now what the programmer done is he has explicitly called system.gc method. So it's just a request to the Java virtual machine to perform garbage collection. Okay. So now yes, so this system.gc is just a request to a Java virtual machine to perform garbage collection, which means to deallocate the memory allocated to S1 and S2. So before deallocating the memory, automatically this finalize method will be called. Okay, so that is object is garbage collected, which means we have two objects here. So before deallocating the memory of these two objects, this finalize method is called. Okay, yes, that's it about the garbage collection. Now we'll understand about the array of objects. Yes. So this program we have already learned in this video. So where we created a class dog and we have created only one object. But in this program we'll be creating an array of object. That is, we'll be creating two objects here. Let us begin with the program. Yes. The class with the name dog and breed, size, age, color are the instance variable. And here is a method. So in this method, so what we are going to do here is, so we'll be just initializing. So as you can see, all breed, size, age, color, all here is an local variable. So here we are initializing the instance variables. As you can see here, the value from the local variable is assigned to an instance variable. So using this dot breed, this is how it differentiate this dot breed. This is how we differentiate local variable and instance variable. Okay. So yes, the size value will be stored to the instance variable and age value will be stored to the instance variable. Then after that, I'm going to print the value of all these variables. Okay, and then comes the main function. So in the main functions, yes, this is how we create an array of object. So what this does is it will just create a two blocks of memory of type class. Okay, so this statement, it will just create a two blocks of memory of class type. Then object is not created. Now to create objects, each such blocks to be no for each such blocks we need to assign memory separately. As you can see, docs of 0, we have allocated memory separately using new operator. Okay, well, suppose if here there is only two blocks of memory, we have done it separately. Now if at all if there is more than two blocks of memory, then we can make use of for loop to assign memory to each blocks. Okay, so as you can see, now the memory is allocated. Now I can say this docs of 0 is an object. Now I'll be just calling this getInfo method by passing this value. So passing these values as parameters. Okay, so here actual parameters is copied to the formal parameters, and finally I'm going to display the value of it. Okay, yes, yeah, that's it. This program just demonstrates the use of array of to demonstrate the creation of array of objects in Java. Okay, yes, here is the final output. Yes, now here is a simple quiz. Now let us solve this simple problem. Here is the class box, and here are the 4 instance variable, and this is a constructor. As you can see, constructor name is same as class name. Constructor doesn't have any return type, and the use of constructor is to initialize the data members of an object. Okay, and constructor is called automatically when an object is created. Here is a method, so that calculates the volume. And yes, as you can see here, width into height into length. Okay, and then we have his main function, and as you can see here, we have created an object. Okay, as you already know that whenever an object is created, the constructor is called automatically. Okay, constructor is called automatically, and the value has been initialized. Width is initialized to 5, height is initialized to 5, and length is initialized to 6. After that, we'll be calling the volume method. What happens in volume method is it will just calculate the volume, that is 5 into 5 into 5, sorry, 5 into 5 into 6, that is 150. Value will be stored to volume, and that's it. I'm just displaying the value, object dot volume. Since volume is an instance variable, suppose if you want to access this instance variable inside a static method, I need to create an object. Okay, so object dot volume. Okay, but this instance variable can be directly accessed by a non-static method. That's the reason I can easily access volume inside a non-static method. Okay, yes, that's it. The output of this, the answer is B. Okay, let me check whether it is correct or not. Yes, this is correct. Okay, now let us look into quiz 2. Yes, we have got class with the name area, and we have got 3 instance variable, and we have got a method called as area as well. And yes, this is what to differentiate between local variable and instance variable. So this dot width refers an instance variable. Yes, we have created one more class called as class output, and here is the main method, and yes, object. So this is how where you create an object using class name. And yes, okay, and I'll be just calling method area using an object dot area. Will be calling this method. So the 5 value get initialized to width, and the value 6 gets initialized to length. And that's it. I will be again from the local variable, the value gets initialized to this instance variable, and finally when I display the values, the length value, that object dot length is 6 and object dot width is 5. That's it. The option C is correct. Let me check. Yes, yes, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe and share. Thank you once again.